shocking to see America declaring economic war on the rest of the world, to impose, a minimum tariff of 10% on every nation and much higher tariffs on the European Union, on Japan, on South Korea. Obviously, we've known Trump has had China's trade practices in his sights since he became president, first time, and even, before that. But these sorts of measures against allies, that is profoundly shocking. And, it will have profound negative consequences for all of us. When you introduce friction into trade, growth slows down. The rate at which our living standards increase slows down. There's at least a one-off increase in the price of really important stuff. And if there's widespread retaliation, it'll be the price of almost everything that we consume. There are countries across the world which in particular sectors impose higher tariffs on American exports than America, applies to their exports. And fair enough, if America doesn't like it, they can have a negotiation on that on a country basis. But that's not what he's doing. What he's doing is, in a sense, shooting first and negotiating later. They have made an assumption, and it is an assumption rather than a scientific calculation, that countries with these big surpluses, vis-a-vis America, are competing unfairly. They've almost plucked out of air what they think the number is, and they are now expecting the negotiation to start. It's just worth picking out, actually, also just the impact on one country before we move on, which is America. Trump describes this as his Liberation Day. His economic argument, he spelled out yesterday, which is he does believe that if he makes it much more expensive for exporters from the rest of the world to gain access to the very big and important American market, that will encourage international companies to invest more in America, to create new factories in America that will create jobs, and that over time, this will be good for Americans. And also, if the relative position of American manufacturers improves because of these tariffs, then the wages and living standards of Americans may rise. But he also acknowledged, because presumably his advisors have been telling him he has to acknowledge this, that certainly for months and conceivably for years, even if over time there is that positive impact for Americans, their living standards will be squeezed, because in the first instance, this rise in tariffs can only be absorbed by two groups. If exporters pass on all the tariff in their prices to American consumers, then that is a big hit to the living standards of Americans, and millions of people who voted for Trump live from one paycheck to the next, and their living standards will be squeezed. That is sort of extraordinary, given that he went into the election in the autumn promising that he would help them more than anybody else. And certainly for a period of time, they will be considerably worse off. So, so much to get your head around here. But one of the things that obviously is going to be fascinating to see is whether they will give him the months and years that he's asking for to improve their law, or whether they are simply going to be furious that for the coming months they're going to be poorer.